Welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast with me, Venus O'Hara. An orgasmic lifestyle is about reaching a climax in all areas of life, not just in the bedroom. Here, we dive deep with expert guests on topics like nutrition, spirituality, personal development, sexuality, and much more. Together, we'll explore lifestyle lessons to help you lead a life that's fulfilling, joyful, and unapologetically orgasmic. I'm your guide, Venus O'Hara. Welcome to episode 160 of the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast with Venus O'Hara. In this new moon episode, we discuss hormonal health and the menopause. We speak with Karen Bigman, who is a menopause coach and the host of the Taboo to Truth podcast. I also review the Netflix series Kylie, which is about Kylie Minogue. And the episode ends with a meditation with affirmations for hormonal health and the menopause. But first, let me share with you my own experience with hormonal balance, or rather imbalance. Let's talk about the menopause. Yay or not. It's not a yay for most people. It can be a very, confusing time. And also it can be very annoying, all of the symptoms. I must confess that I'm so fortunate that I am not really having any symptoms of menopause. The only things I've experienced until now are my cycle is starting to get a little bit unpredictable, which is so annoying because, just to plan your life, you're traveling, you're socializing, etc., having a period when it's regular, at least you can kind of plan around it, etc. But now it's kind of like surprise. And but I must confess, or must admit that mostly my period has been amazing throughout my life. It was been often very irregular, especially when I started. And it's only in the last maybe 10 years that it became like regular, like clockwork. So now it's starting to be a bit fluctuaty recently. And it's very annoying. And sometimes I feel like I'm having premenstrual symptoms. It doesn't come. But the most annoying symptom that I've experienced in terms of hormonal imbalance is hormonal bloating. Oh my God, it's the most awful thing. It started happening to me about 3 years ago, and it's something that happens to me maybe 2-3 times a year since then. But when it does happen, it's so annoying because normally when we wake up, we have a flat stomach, and then throughout the day, it starts to bloat with food, etc., and air that we're swallowing and blah, blah, blah. And by the end of the evening, our belly is very different from what it was like in the morning. However, I've experienced this bloating even from first thing in the morning, and my belly has felt kind of hard and distended. And I've learned that it's actually down to hormones, and because there wasn't any digestive issues that I was experiencing. It was just this very uncomfortable bloating. And I experienced it last about a month ago. And it was the timing couldn't have been worse for me because it was about to be the sex toy B2B fair here in Barcelona. I even bought a new Hugo Boss suit. I just was really, going to see my clients face to face. And I had this big belly that looked like 5-6 months pregnant, and it was just not just aesthetically awful, but it was very annoying and uncomfortable, very uncomfortable to deal with. And I was trying to wear clothes that were going to hide it, which is obviously easier when it was a little bit cooler, but now with the summer it would be impossible to hide. So what I did was I decided to take a few days off and really pamper myself, because a lot of it was also down to cortisol, not just hormones. So I bought a hot water bottle and I went to the spa. I got a massage. I did some really nice things for myself and really kind of massaged my belly as well, and really took things easy. And just I also went to my herbalist because I'm very much into natural remedies, and I got a hormonal high cortisol blend because my herbalist is amazing. She has a shop in the center of Barcelona that's very old. It's been preserved from its original state, and there's lots of glass jars with all these different leaves and potions in, and she has this big brass old weighing scales, and she spends a lot of time with each person, and whatever issues you have, she has a potion for it. She really is a green witch. However, hormones can be quite complicated, and as menopause approaches, I think many people have to think about how they're going to deal with the changes that are going to occur. But I don't have anything else to report. My libido is on track, super present and very high as always. And also, I don't have any lubrication problems. I never have had any lubrication problems. I've always been very, very juicy. And so the period thing, I don't have any hot flashes at all. I don't know if we're saying flushes or flashes, if that's a US, UK thing. And so I think with aging, I think, we have to kind of adapt as we get older. And sometimes this adaptation can be just very natural. For example, as far as sexuality is concerned, the type of sex I want to have now is very different from the sex I was having in my 20s. And I think it's also like when you're a child and you play with dolls, and then over time you're less interested in that and your interests evolve. And I think that's the same with sexuality, that what turned me on back then is not quite the same as now. I really want to slow down and be a bit more present. But I think, when we look at, libido and how that can really, or how the hormones or menopause can really influence your sexuality, I think it's important to not just, it depends on what you want and what your goals are, but just to kind of accept, this is it now. It can be kind of disempowering, I personally think. I think if you want to have a fulfilling sex life, you have to want to have it. You have to want it kind of thing. I remember I have a friend who's, when his wife went through menopause, it's like, I don't want it anymore. Body doesn't want it anymore. The shop is shut. And it's kind of, that can be very, jarring and kind of confusing for the other person to not really want it. You have to want it to actually find the solutions, because you absolutely can have a fulfilling sex life through menopause, after menopause, etc. And it really takes me back to someone I interviewed. I haven't even published the episode yet, but I interviewed Shanae Paylett, and she's the author of the book Living an Orgasmic Life. Obviously, I love the title of that book, and that's what attracted me to the book in the first place. And she has a chapter in the book where she says, no matter how old you are, imagine if I told you that the best sex of your life is ahead of you. And she had her sexual awakening at the age of 51 after a couple of decades of a sexless marriage. And now she's a sexpert. I think she's probably in her 60s now. But it's I know so many women like that who have not only had their sexual awakenings later in life, but they have been so awakened that they have actually, it's become their job. And I think that is very, very encouraging. So I think you have to want to change. But in terms of my own sexuality, how it's changed over the years, I still feel like very, very horny. But I think when I was younger, sexuality or my sex life was very much defined by just penetration and doing penetration a lot. Because obviously, if you're with the younger guys as well, they can have sex 5 times a night sometimes, especially in your 20s, and then obviously getting a bit lower and lower over time, and also erection quality definitely is amazing when someone is young, but obviously now there is a lot of PIED, porn-induced erectile dysfunction, which is affecting a lot of younger guys as well, and just overall nervousness. It's not always about age. And I had an experience recently with someone who was a lot younger than me. And it really was a kind of nostalgic experience, because I connected with my younger self and the type of sex I used to have when I was younger, which was very orgasmic, very penetration centered, and just, it was almost melancholic, as I kind of embraced a past version of myself. It was amazing, and I can really see what the allure of an older woman with a younger man. It's kind of like there can be an emotional connection, but there's nothing is expected from it, and I think that's what that is part of the charm of the whole thing. And it was just incredible. Excuse me. I actually watched Age of Attraction recently, and there's a scene in it where there's an older woman who is talking to her friend about the sex with a younger man, and her face lights up. And I was thinking, I want to try that. I want to experience that. But someone on my YouTube asked me if I was into older men or younger men, and I said older for relationships and younger for situationships, because I don't really see being with a much younger person to be any more than just a friendship, a connection, and good, very good sex. But also, I think for me, if I had regular encounters with a younger person, I think with this person I'm thinking of, who's just incredible, I think my tendency would be to be kind of like a teacher and want to teach them things about presence and sexual mindfulness and slowing down and more of the tantric things that I've learned later in life, which should be, it's a different approach to sexuality altogether. But also I think of when the aging male, because it's not just about women having menopause, also men, it's very, very, there's a big difference in, erections and how that affects men as they get older. And I interviewed Sam Itzhaki at the beginning of the year, and who has a penis pump company. So if you're interested in penis pumps, go to pumpvenus.com and you can get discounted penis pumps. But it's really interesting, this whole idea of penis pumps and how they're kind of like a manual, kind of natural Viagra to be able to increase erection quality and sometimes size as well, but that's not really something I would like to emphasize. It's more about helping blood flow to the penis, just in the moment and also over time. It's something that you do regularly to actually encourage better blood flow overall. But I do think that from my experiences with older men in general, there can be a lot of shame around the declining erection. And I know some men who are very powerful, very influential, and that I am friends with, who have confided in me that how they are suffering because of their declining erectile functionality. And I just tell them that there are solutions. And I also interviewed Dr. Judson Brandeis, who is an advocate of male health as well. So there are so many solutions out there. And also Dr. Elliot Justin, who has a brand called Firmtech, which is about nocturnal erections. And nocturnal erections are very much linked to cardiovascular health, etc. But there are solutions out there to help to preserve and encourage good erection quality. It's not just about sex, it's also about health, and particularly cardiovascular health. But in my experiences with older men, I just see so much ego, and it can be very difficult to approach the topic of erectile dysfunction, because it can turn into a gaslighting thing. No one else has complained, it's only with you, which I've experienced that in my life, unfortunately. But even though there are solutions there, I think in general men are not as used to going to the doctors and pulling their trousers down and talking about their bits. I think women, as we go to the gynecologist more regularly, I think it's something that we are more connected to when something is wrong. So I do think I really would like to emphasize to anyone, male or female, that there are solutions out there to actually, help you to continue with a satisfying sex life, and also to change it up. It's not just about, in, out, shake it all about. And I think the aging process encourages you to actually change it up and become more present and more mindful as well. And I remember watching an interview with a woman who was in her 80s, who was a sex blogger, and she was talking about just, being naked and stroking skin. It's not always about some athletic experience. It can be just, holding someone, touching someone, and caressing them softly. And it doesn't have to even have an orgasm. It's just about that presence, connection, and warmth of another body, which can be so beautiful. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. I want to feel it soon again. So I feel that my approach to aging and menopause is going to be as natural as I can for as long as I can go. And then I'm definitely open to seeking medical medical intervention so that I can have a very juicy sex life. Because I remember reading the book of I think it's Betty Dodson. Yeah, it's Betty Dodson's book, Sex for One, and she was such a muse for me. She's the original orgasm activist, and she was also vegetarian. And she said that she was going to do, menopause in the most natural way. But then she went on HRT, and then she described it as becoming juicy again. And I was like, okay, she's really selling it to me, because I don't ever want to be not juicy. I've never needed to use lubricant. I mean, companies try and sell me lubricants all the time. And I look at the ingredients and I'm like, no, they all have glycerin and other nasty things in them. And I did try lubricant years ago, and smearing this cold goo over my bits just did not feel good. And I'm just so grateful that I have more than enough Venusian nectar to help me out. But I would just rather be as natural as possible. Obviously, I do think you should use lubricant if you need it, and definitely for penetration if you need it. But for me, I just haven't felt that I have more than enough lubricant, so I haven't felt that that I've needed it. But I would rather, have a natural, not natural, but I would rather, take whatever's on offer, whatever's available, so that I can enjoy a life that is hormonally juicy as long as possible. And and I'm just hoping that things will, evolve and improve as time goes on, and as there is more and more awareness of menopausal health. Anyway, let's speak to a menopause coach who's going to teach us a lot more than what I know about this. I want to share something that I've been taking recently that's really supporting my energy, balance, and overall vitality. It's from Lilo Labs. Lilo is the sexual wellness brand you may already know, and they're now expanding into the supplement space with formulations focused on hormonal balance, energy, and libido. The link is in the show notes, and you can get 20% off with the code 20Venus. And what I like about it is that it's not just targeting one symptom or one area. It's designed for a full body support formula for sexual wellness, hormonal harmony, and sustained energy. It contains high-quality, clinically studied ingredients like maca, shatavari, fenugreek, magnesium, enzymes, super mushrooms, and miso-inositol, if I can say it right, along with over 85 carefully chosen vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and superfoods. For me personally, I've noticed it helps me feel more steady in my energy throughout the day, more balanced overall, and more connected to my natural desire and vitality. It feels like a gentle daily support rather than something intense or stimulating, more like a nutritional foundation that supports the whole system. If you're looking to support hormonal balance, libido, and energy in a more holistic way, this might be something worth exploring. It's Lilo Labs Female Hormonal Balance Supplement. The link is in the show notes below, and get 20% off with the code 20Venus. Now it's time for this episode's interview. We'll be speaking with Karen Bigman, who is the host of the Taboo to Truth podcast, and she's also a menopause coach. Karen Bigman, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast, where every day's a climax. How are you today?
Ooh. I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to my climax.
Oh, wow. Amazing. So for those who are unfamiliar with your work, could you tell us what you do?
Yes, I am a midlife sex and relationship expert, also a certified sex educator and menopause coach, and podcaster on midlife life and sex after 50.
Oh, wow. So what inspired you to follow this path?
Well, there were many different things, but the several culminating moments. But basically, it started with my own journey through menopause and divorce. That started with dating and not being able to have an orgasm. And
Wow.
so from that moment where I thought the universe was punishing me for finally being out there, getting divorced and being able to have, sex. I had rather typical sexless marriage in midlife. I was struggling with that. So I ended up finding my way to a sexual medicine practice. And that was the beginning of it, because it was a combination of things that happened. There was a nurse practitioner there, and there was a sex therapist. That was the first appointment. And so they were looking at the medical and the psychological factors that might be contributing. And they asked me a lot of obviously very personal questions and very specific questions about orgasms. How did I orgasm? How did I orgasm? And these were things that I could kind of talk about to my friends, but certainly never to my partner and never to a
Oh,
doctor. And it had even taken me courage to ask my doctor to get a referral. And but the conversations just got easier. And in that very same first appointment, as they were asking me all these questions, they asked me if I ever had used a vibrator before. And I turned pink, like my hair, because I don't think I kind of knew what they were, but I never used them. And they took out a little bullet vibrator
mhm.
and told me to go try it in the other room, in the doctor's office.
Wow. What kind of doctor's that? Wow, that's interesting.
Exactly. I know, right? And I obliged, I mean, doctor's orders. And I
Mhm.
literally within 5 minutes came out and I just said, you just changed my life. Like it was like, wow, now I know what it could be like. And of course it helped with my issues at the time. And I also learned that in addition to losing estrogen and progesterone, as you go through menopause, we also lose testosterone, which is one of the hormones that can contribute to libido and orgasm and intensity of orgasm. So the combination package of learning a little more about my body and changing my hormone combination and being able to start talking about it, it's just something that I started talking about more and more with my girlfriends. And I invited the sex therapist to do a talk at my house. And like it was something like I could talk about anything. And then fast forward about 8 years, I moved to a fairly conservative part of California from New York City for a period. And I was at a crossroads, turning 60, didn't know what to do with my life. I had worked in the divorce world, which was quite depressing. And there were a couple little pivotal things that happened while I was here. One being a book club meeting where the book had some not that we would think of as racy, but a racy sex scene by the standards of the people who were in the book club. And there was this like absolute like mortification by the woman who had referred this book, that how could I refer a book that had this scene? And the scene was a wife giving a husband a blowjob. We were not talking about, like some crazy, wild decadent thing. So that was one thing. And there was another a guy that I reconnected with from the past that told me he thought that women in their 50s didn't like sex anymore. And so I had always been talking about it, and I thought, well, this is something that I can really talk about. These people are they don't need to be ashamed about it. There's no reason why the world has to believe this. And also the conversation about menopause had started to come into the vernacular. So people were actually saying the word. And I just thought, well, someone's got to do it. So I picked
Wow.
up my phone and I started to talk about it. And from that, I decided to learn more about menopause and become a menopause certified coach. And then I discovered the Sexual Health Alliance and certified as a sex educator. And that really blew it wide open. And now it's just, I've since sort of more pivoted into the area of sex and aging, and really helping people who are in midlife understand that sex doesn't end, whether it's menopause, andropause, divorce, long marriage.
Mhm.
That really there's a lot of hope for us in the world of sex, and
Mhm.
I'm the one that's going to talk about it.
Would you say your sexual awakening happened around post-menopause, post-divorce?
Yes, and so I definitely have had more sex and the ability to be more raw. I think it's a work in progress.
Okay, well
Despite
that's
the
life
fact
though.
that I do
Yeah.
this, yeah, yeah. No, but yes, it was somewhat of an awakening, because now I knew how to talk about things and I learned how to communicate more and to use the tools that help us. In
Oh
fact,
wow.
I really forgot to put in I'm very vocal about it, my little vibrator earrings that
Oh
I normally
yeah.
wear on.
I
So I,
love
I do
those
I
those
do wear it
wands.
out.
That's definitely a conversation starter for those who are listening.
Yes,
They are
yes,
some tiny wand massager earrings
yes.
in color pink. Wow. So in this book club, this blowjob scene, how did you react to it? Were you just like, it's just a blowjob? How was your reaction?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I thought it made it was one of those Gone Girl-esque kind of
Mm,
shows, and it was kind of the manipulation of the husband was what it was trying to. But of course, it didn't bother me, and it's just interesting how people can talk about it kind of women more can talk about it amongst themselves, but when it comes to mentioning words out in public, it becomes this very, very shameful thing.
Hmm.
Even
Wow.
like when I had that dinner, the famous dinner I say, when I had the sex therapist who was just this lovely, very, she's like a little Dr. Ruth, over for dinner, and I had about 20 girlfriends there, and she gave an incredible talk about painful sex and what was happening, and helping, teaching all some of the things that I already knew, but a lot of things I didn't. And there were several women there I knew that were having difficulty, even like having any kind of penetrative sex with their partners, and had kind of given up, and they never did anything about it. And that was really upsetting to me. They're like, yeah, I know, we're just gonna, it's okay. I don't really need it. It's just,
Mm. I've heard that with some male friends who are married, and then when their wives go through the menopause, it's like they don't want it, and they don't want it, if that makes sense. They and that's the thing, that's the problem. I think it's not so much about what menopause, it's about, are you willing to kind of find a solution to the new challenges that you're facing? Would you say that's quite common?
I think it's common, and I think it's a bunch of things going on at the same time. You said the words "want to want it," right? If
Mm.
you look at Emily Nagoski's work, if the sex is not has been the same your entire life, I mean, some people, I don't know if you saw the movie Baby Girl, where Nicole
Oh
Kidman
my
is
God,
married for
amazing.
19 years, faking orgasms. Some women have
Yeah.
never really enjoyed it. We kind of have this, well, we need to endure. It
Mm.
becomes what my girlfriend calls husband sex. I'm just going to do it because he
Mm.
wants to. Like, why would I want this? And you sort of lose the connection, and the longer you go without the connection, the harder and the less interested it becomes. But I always say, well, the opposite of that is if you
Mm.
start building the connection again, the more you have, the more you want, the better it gets, etc. So yeah, I do see it a lot.
Mm. So would you say you're having the best sex of your life, like post menopause? Would you say that's true for you? Is that possible? You've seen it?
Oh, absolutely. And they've actually done studies, and in fact, women who, and I would imagine they're probably more single women, or women who've gone through new relationships in midlife. I don't know exactly the pool of the research, but there is research to show that women after, I don't know if it's 50 or 60, are saying they're having the best sex of their life. And if you can just get over that hump,
Oh
it's
wow.
so much more fun. In fact, I think the research shows, if I remember right, that women actually lose their interest quicker, but we can get it back. It's like I can't remember which doctor gives the example of how she was treating this woman, and her husband called and said, "You got to do something. My wife's having trouble. She doesn't, she's having trouble with sex, having trouble with sex, and or trouble orgasming, whatever it was." And the doctor says, "So is everything okay? What's going on?" And she says, "Oh yeah, I'm just doing the pool boy. Like, it's not that I don't want sex, it's that I don't want sex with him." You know?
Oh wow.
So the novelty is very important to women. And
Mm.
men are a little more visual. And so for them, they can look at something that they find sexy, or they can look at, see a sexy picture and perhaps get a hard on much more easily. We are responsive. We need more to get aroused. We need more novelty. And yes, we
Mm.
need connection. I mean, that's important, but we also need somebody to spark
Mm.
the fire a little.
Oh wow. So was your sexual curiosity just came alive at this point then of midlife? Was it not there before, or you just didn't really pay attention to that part of your life?
It was there, but it was like, I would say, it was somewhat repressed.
Mm.
I was brought up in an age where it's don't get pregnant, don't get an STI.
Mm.
My ex-husband, I mean, we were very typical for a while, maybe once a week, kind of, we were married for 25 years, and then it just kind of petered out. And he would actually reject me, which was extremely unusual and shameful for me, because like, what woman wants more sex than her husband? Like, who even knew that?
Mm.
So just being able to say, like, I like sex and I want sex without feeling embarrassed or guilty or ashamed about it, that was sort of more of the awakening than really being so experimentative. Like, that's sort of coming more as I get to know this world, and all the different opportunities to try different things.
Mm. So what's been the biggest surprise that for you in this journey of exploration of post menopause sex and just sex education in general?
So I have been searching for my passion. Everyone always says,
Mm.
find your passion, find your passion, find your passion. I mean, I have been a COBOL programmer out of college. I worked for IBM. I worked in restaurants. I've done like a million different things. What's most surprising is more less the thing than it is the ideas that light me up and that I'm so passionate about that I'm excited to get up in the morning and start working and doing my content and researching and meeting people and going out into the community. And I just this has been the most exciting for me. Like I mean, I'm 62 now. Like I don't see this is just the beginning.
Wow. Wow. I love that. And I find sometimes that people, I don't know if you can relate to this, that people think that our job is just about orgasms and titillation, when in actual fact, people come to us through painful experiences. And it's got a lot of pain to kind of process. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, and a lot of resignation. And that's the
Mm.
hardest part. It's like people will come to me and I'm like, just she's like, she doesn't want it, she doesn't this. I said, always give them the John and Susan Gottman 6-second kiss, 20-second hug. So like
Mm.
just start with something because that's when the oxytocin starts to release,
Ah.
or I think that's the hormone. So just do something little, and that might even just a hug. When someone gives you a really good hug, long hug,
Mm.
like things just stir, and whether they're sexual or not, they bring a connection, and if you can get that, you can get past that. I mean, who's going to say no to a hug?
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. When it's not just defined as penetration all the time. So going beyond that. So what does a
And if they're saying
menopause?
no to so sorry, but if they're
Okay.
saying no to a hug, then there's something bigger going on in the relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what does a menopause coach do?
So I have not been coaching per se one-on-one, but I do a lot of educating.
Mm.
I'll speak to groups of women, and basically, so a lot over the last like couple of years, the research that was done many years ago that around hormone replacement therapy has been the research hasn't been debunked, but the interpretation of the research that it was a cancer causing has been debunked. And so there's a lot of re-education
Mm.
for people, certainly younger women. Like in my day, many women were not even offered hormone therapy. So there's a lot of kind of teaching people that yes, it's okay to engage in to educate yourself about hormone therapy. This is not my role, but a lot of doctors are just learning about it that don't even know how to prescribe it because it was something they weren't supposed to do. Helping women understand that they don't need to suffer, kind of that side of it. And then sometimes I'll bring in experts like clinicians or medical professionals to talk about the actual medical testosterone, whatever it is, the things that are more specific around menopause.
Mm. I think I have a lot of questions about menopause. I don't really think we have a standardized education about it or awareness. So, and I think there's also a lot of female pride. And there's not everyone is sharing like their day-to-day struggles. Would you say that's true?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's
Mm.
it's this whole idea that we're supposed to suffer. I mean, I have
Mm.
friends that they ask me and I tell them, one of the things that we try to at least get women to do is to use topical vaginal estrogen. Topical vaginal estrogen helps with the dryness, and it also helps prevent urinary tract infections, which is one of the biggest killers of women because you don't know you have it and you might be older, not know you have it, and then it ends up getting into your bloodstream and you die. Like there are some
Wow.
preventative things that can be done that are really benign, and just helping people to even just know that and talk about that and know that that's just like you get your period, you learn about tampons, you go through menopause, you learn about vaginal estrogen.
Wow. So do you think it's possible just to kind of not use any type of hormones, like doing it the natural way? Do you think that's possible?
Well, I think
And
the misnomer is the word natural.
mm.
So, we go through various transitional phases in our bodies, like puberty. Menopause is one of those.
Mm.
Um, Women take the birth control pill. That's not
Mm.
natural. And yet
Mm.
there's such an aversion to hormone replacement therapy. Most hormone replacement therapy today is what they call bioidentical, which means
Mm.
that it mimics exactly what your body produces. Not all of it, but most of it. And they also know that certain symptoms of menopause, let me back up for a second. Estrogen affects every single system in your body, your
Mm.
skin, your hair, your nails, your joints, not just your reproductive organs.
Mm.
So when you're losing all that, your whole body is upside down, right? So if you decide not to to supplement any of that, your systems are suffering. And so there's health consequences beyond that. It's not just that you're not putting, not replacing your hormones. You're actually could have cardiovascular issues, osteoporosis. If you have osteoporosis in your family, like that's actually a known indication for menopause hormone therapy. If you've got terrible hot flashes, they say that can really lead to cardiovascular events. And if you have those, you're not sleeping properly, you can't function, you can't work. Some women can't work. It's so bad. So I think if you have a headache, you take an aspirin. But if your body is in complete upside downness, like you won't replace what's gone. We're not giving you, a hallucinogen.
Okay.
And by the way, I'm not a doctor, so I say this as as an educator, but I just, you owe it to yourself to do the research, whether you choose to try ashwagandha, which has not been proven to work, or you choose to buy an estrogen patch that's prescribed by your doctor is of course your choice. But I do think it has done wonders for me. And I've seen how people, they start on it, and it's like within weeks, people who are having severe issues or brain fog. I mean, there's so many things that it can help with.
So what is
It's not the
available
miracle
then?
drug.
So
Yes,
what's
yes.
available? 'Cause I have no idea actually. I have no idea what people are. I heard about this thing years ago. I think it was called pre-marine. I thought it was like um
Premarin,
it's like horse's
horse's
urine.
urine.
And I was
Yes.
like, oh my God, doesn't sound nice. Yeah.
Well,
But I
that's
mean what
actually
is it?
yeah, it's true.
Wow.
That's where they derive the original hormone therapy from, because mare, it's like Premier, it's from mares.
Mm,
They have an enormous amount of hormones in them. So they were
mm.
able to figure out how to make this. And that's natural if you want to think about it. Like
Yeah,
horse's urine is
yeah.
natural, right?
It's pretty natural. Horse urine. Yeah. So is that a kind of old thing, or is that something that's the people are still using? What is available now? What is HRT for those who don't know what it is?
So Premarin is a type of hormone therapy. I believe that is not a bioidentical, but it sometimes is
Mm,
indicated. But doesn't mean it doesn't help replace your estrogen. It just works in a different mechanism. And again, I'm not
mm,
scientifically or clinically
mm,
able to talk about it. But so there's three main hormones that we lose as we age. One, the estrogen,
mm,
progesterone, and testosterone. Um, Estrogen is something that's the one, well, they both fluctuate, but estrogen's the big one. You can't replace, I mean, women who have a uterus. So if you haven't had a
mm,
hysterectomy, if you get prescribed estrogen, you need to balance it with progesterone, because otherwise you'll start to get a thickening of the uterine lining, and you then are at risk of complications or cancer. So women with uteruses would typically get prescribed some combination of estrogen and progesterone. If you do not have a uterus, and it could be sometimes like right after a hysterectomy, you might go into sudden menopause. And in those cases, they'd only give you estrogen.
mm. So I have a very naive question. Is this in
Yes.
pill form to take every day, like the pill? What is what?
There are different ways, so it can be
Okay.
delivered in many different ways. For me, for example, I get my estrogen in a patch that goes
Mm,
between my vulva and my belly button, and I replace it every twice a week. And then I
mm,
have an IUD that has the progesterone. Some people take progesterone in a pill, some take
mm,
estrogen in a pill. It really depends how your body processes it and how it works best for you. There's creams, there's gels. Like I take my testosterone comes in a gel. So
mm,
testosterone is another one of these hormones that's for whatever reason controversial.
mm,
It's controversial because we gendered hormones. Well, women have more testosterone than men in their 20s, but it converts to estrogen. So we think of
mm,
women as not having testosterone. Men have testosterone. We have it as well. And so supplementing that is almost, I mean, they're all related, but that can be another hormone that may not, like I didn't start testosterone until I started having the libido or the anorgasmia issues. That wasn't part of my original prescription.
mm,
And you can take one without you can be prescribed testosterone and not be prescribed estrogen and progesterone.
mm,
But they
mm,
all help to, or so it is said, that they help to with the cardiovascular. They help with preventing, in some cases, reducing risk of dementia. I mean, there's a lot of benefits when
mm,
properly prescribed.
oh wow. So do people still have the periods then if you're having all these hormones? Do you still is there still a bleed And how does that happen? Is it irregular? Is it irregular? How does that work?
So of course every body is different, but
Mm,
the common understanding of so there's perimenopause, and then once you have gone 12 months without a period, you are then officially in menopause. And in
mm,
some doctors will tell you that's kind of a random definition, but that's the generally understood definition. It's 12 months without a period means you are in menopause. If you're in perimenopause, when the hormones are still really, really fluctuating, it doesn't mean you can't be treated. And I think that's
mm,
another myth that doctors will say, well, you still get your period, so we can't give you hormone therapy. Well, that's the time you need it most, because that's when things are going wackadoodle. One day you feel
mm.
great, the next day you're ready to jump off a building. It's just,
Wow.
it can be that extreme. So there's that, as long, if you're symptomatic and it's bothersome enough, the right
Mm.
doctor, will give you the right prescription.
Oh wow. So that will create a period then? So for some people after
No,
or
in fact, because I think I started in my late 40s, 47, 48. I was
mm.
having hot flashes and my doctor put me on it. And because I got the IUD, I stopped getting my period. So
Oh,
I don't
okay.
actually know the date, like the 12-month
Oh,
point for
okay.
me.
Uh-huh.
But you may still be getting your period, and be on hormone therapy. So you definitely have to worry about that if you still have a period. But it doesn't mean you are not perimenopausal.
Mm. Okay, so let's go on to the sexy part then, the sexier part. So the pleasure. So when you've had these your hormones kind of under control with the doctor and everything, how can people get their kind of mojo back and connect with themselves, with a partner? How do you have any tips for those people going through this?
Well, you start to feel better in general.
Mm,
When trying to have an orgasm, it wasn't like I was fighting for this thing.
mm,
It was something that came with the right in the right
mm,
environment. It actually would happen. And getting to know your body. Like we're nobody ever takes a mirror and shows us our vulvas when we're
mm.
going to the gynecologist. You might see the baby's head come out if you've had children, but
Yeah.
that's about it. Like I never looked down there. And so
Mm.
getting to know that, and I think through, because I had learned about the vibrators, I kind of learned to masturbate a bit too, which I had never done much of.
Wow.
So that was kind of fun too.
Wow.
And it also helps bring it into a partner. When I was in a partnered situation, I could now say, "Oh, we got some toys that are coming with
Oh
us."
wow. I love it. So how do people react when they find out what you do?
It's so funny. It depends. It's always like they didn't see it coming. Like especially when I'm dating, I'll be like, what do you do? Oh, I'm in insurance. Oh, what do you do? Well, so it's very interesting. There's kind of two schools.
Mm,
There's the guy who changes, and I'm talking specifically in the dating world. I can talk
mm,
about it in the general world too, but there's
mm,
the guy who says, oh, and changes the subject.
mm,
And then there's the guy who wants to listen to all 150 episodes of my podcast and know every single thing about me. So that's like in the dating world. And I do discourage that because I think it's a little overwhelming. And then when I'm out and about in the world, if I meet somebody, they will, especially men, they'll say, oh my
mm.
God, my wife, she's having such a hard time menopause. We never have sex anymore. Or they'll tell me, oh yeah, we went to a swingers party. So people want to
Wow.
talk about it. They really
Mm.
do.
I find that that's the biggest thing actually. It's the biggest misconception that people have of when I tell them what I do. I think people assume there's going to be a lot of judgment, but in fact, you become a custodian for so many secrets, and people assume that you are, trustworthy and open-minded and things like that. Is that the same for you?
Oh, absolutely. I was at a dating event a couple weeks ago, and there were a whole bunch of women, and half were married, and it was anyway. There were some women that were married and older, and then there were some that were like middle aged and younger and single. And one of the women who was married, we started talking. We were talking about. She said that my husband and I aren't really sexual anymore. I guess she was probably in her mid 70s. Maybe he was a bit older, and she goes, "But I've had a lot of sex. I can tell you, right? I had an affair for many years." Like she
Mm,
was telling me she had an affair, and I'm like, okay, like I don't judge, whatever it is, it's none of my business. But
mm,
this complete stranger tells me
mm,
one of her deepest, darkest, or maybe not dark, but deepest secrets. So
mm,
yes, I think people really and that's the whole point of our work, right? Is that we're shadow banned, we're censored, we're shamed, but at the same time, really, it's because people want to talk about it, but they don't know how.
mm. It's like you're giving permission to people. Like I just had this similar experience. I go to this private members club, And there's this guy who I've seen around a lot, and he didn't know what I did. And then when I told him, then he starts telling me every time me and my wife argue, I go to a prostitute and stuff. I'm like, I don't really need to know this, but now I know. It's just like, whoa. So it's really it's nice to be perceived as someone who, is, I don't know, open-minded and non-judgmental. It's nice to have to be perceived like that. But it's yeah.
I think men
Mm,
really need someone to talk to. I think that's the hardest
mm.
thing. I had a similar experience, not someone I knew, but at my Uber drivers are always somehow it comes up what I do. And this
Yeah.
one guy was telling me that he had lost his job and he was afraid to tell his wife. And he would go, there's a nude beach in the area here, and he would go to the nude beach and watch people fornicate on the beach, and that was his escape. And I'm like, you might want to get some help for that, but like this was
Like, get me home now. No.
no, but I
Yeah.
wasn't, I didn't, maybe I'm stupid, but I didn't feel threatened in the moment. It was just, it's
Oh wow.
interesting. Yeah.
So what do you think is the biggest misconception about our work? Because I think for me, people would assume that I'd be up for anything, and I'm always up for sex, and like I'm up for swinging, and I'm polyamorous, and like all this
Yep.
openness. That's yeah. What would you say? What's your experience?
Absolutely, the exact same thing. I have I have all my fun earrings. I have a pair that are handcuffs, and
Oh.
I was at the ASECT conference, which is the Association of Sex Therapists, Educators, Coaches, Therapists, whatever it all
Mm,
stands for. And I'm talking to someone, and I said somewhere in the course of conversation, I said, "Yeah, I'm vanilla," and she went like her eyes went like in shock that I could be vanilla and be in this world. So yes, I do think people really think that that we know, we're up for anything, that we're kinky. I also think it's intimidating. I mean, I think that's an
mm,
issue as being a single woman. I think guys feel like we're going to be judging them. They're not going to be good enough. We're going to be telling them what to do, and they won't. They'll feel inadequate, and it's such the opposite.
mm. I found sometimes that at the beginning stage, it's kind of edgy and fun. And then when they get closer and they see all the toys and stuff, they kind of become more intimidating in the day to day. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but like the day to day stuff, like how prevalent sex is in your life. Because I think for me, I've had long bouts of like celibacy in this world, but I still feel like I'm expressing my sexuality through, writing, podcasts, speaking about it. It's still kind of, I'm like constantly edging, because it's just like chronic edging kind of thing. So
I
definitions of
haven't
sex
been
can become wider. Mm,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's wonderful. I've only been doing this for 2+ years, so I don't
mm,
have quite the experience. And I do think like I whoever I'm going to date has to be understanding and curious as opposed to,
mm,
intimidated and overwhelmed by it. And I mean, I have one partner that I hang out with when I'm in New York, and he's more interesting. He's like, oh, I got someone that I can do stuff with, and I'm like, yeah, like there's a limit. Like I stop here. I'll tell
okay.
you where to go if you want to keep going.
Uh-huh.
Like here's how you should do it, but this is where I
Mm,
stop. So
mm. So what's the best thing about your work for you? What's your favorite part?
I love the community. I have
Mm,
yet to meet somebody who, having worked in the divorce world
mm,
for a few years, where everybody's, hoarding their clients, hoarding their information, hoarding their relationships. Like here is everybody is open about everything, and I don't just mean sexually. It's just we're all here to help each other. It's just been a really, really wonderful community to be part of, and all of us educators and even the therapists and at the conferences that I go to. And just for me, I'm a lifelong learner, and so
mm,
I'm just learning so many new things
mm,
that I just never thought I would. I had my own judgments coming into the work.
mm. Such as?
If he has sex with a man, he must be gay. So even he can't, you can't be in a relationship with a woman if you've ever been in a relationship with a man. It wasn't so much that monogamy was the right way to be as that I did not have any understanding. I didn't know anybody who was in any sort of polyamorous or open relationship. Just all the things that all the myths and judgments, that I just did not know.
Mm.
That kink meant you were going to a dungeon and being whipped and chained and hung from the ceiling.
Wow. So tell us about the divorce world. I'm kind of curious about this. What did you do in the divorce world?
So when I was getting divorced, I was fortunate. My ex and I had a quite an amicable divorce, but I would meet women who were really struggling to manage, mostly high net worth or affluent women, whatever you want to call them, who were struggling to really manage the process, especially in the face of all this very much emotional overwhelm. And so my concept was really to be a divorce concierge. I called myself the divorcierge,
Uh-huh.
and to really help be sort of that quarterback, if you will, or the like the project manager, and help them really understand and keep everything organized, and run interference for the lawyer who was the most expensive piece of the business, and trying to kind of say, okay, when you're going to call your lawyer, let's get everything, all your ducks in a row, so you're not paying for an hour of time when you have a 2-minute question, and just helping people
Mm.
get kind of organized. And it was for men and women, but it's a struggle. I mean, it's a really tough thing. Nobody wants to be there. Everyone's afraid they're going to lose all their money. The types of things that people put their kids through,
Mm.
to me was just, I could never imagine like putting my kids in positions that they did, or as pawns in a
Mm.
divorce, just things, and I just didn't want to be around that. But it was noble work, but it was hard.
I bring people together now in
Yes,
different
yeah. I
ways.
mean, I did have a dating course. I would teach online
Mm.
dating, so that was the fun part, and I do a little bit of that now. I don't
Mm.
teach it that way, but I talk a lot. I create a lot of content around dating and relationships. The fun part of it.
Mm. I actually interviewed a holistic divorce lawyer she's from LA. She's
Interesting.
from Sarah Intelligator, and she has brought a book out about dating. And it's so interesting because she's trying to prevent her own work kind of thing, because she's kind of analyzed why relationships or marriages fall apart. And it's all really based on, core values a lot of the time. And she kind of has these case studies. And when you're reading the book, you can kind of predict what's going to go wrong, based on the people's core values at the beginning. It's really interesting.
Well, there's
Mm.
no question that, if you don't have share values, that's a major one. The other
Mm.
thing is I talk about, communication. I mean, we do that for a living, and I say that the two conversations that are the hardest to have are about money and sex.
Mm.
And those are the ones we avoid, and those are the main reasons people get divorced, are around because of money or because of sex.
Mm.
So,
Wow. So a couple of questions I ask all of my guests. What's the book that changed your life?
oh wow,
Any time of your life?
oh my goodness.
Are you a reader?
I am a reader. I am a reader. I can't. I've read so much lately, and both fiction and nonfiction, that I'm having a hard time. I do think I really, Untrue by Wednesday Martin,
Hmm.
which is where I started to learn about, like, the kind of the history of women and feminism, but from an anthropological point of view. That was a really, really great book.
Mm. Did you read it at a pivotal time in your life?
I think it must have been. I mean, it was in the last, 8 or so years that I read it, and I met
Mm.
Wednesday at some point. She's brilliant. I've been trying to get her on the podcast.
Oh,
She's a
wow.
really interesting woman. Yeah.
Amazing. And what about a quote or affirmation that you live by?
Um, life, everything that happens is a teacher.
Oh, I love that. I believe that too, especially the challenges and even people that you don't like. You
Yes,
know? The people who cause you the most pain are like the biggest teachers as
uh,
well.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
amazing. So where can people find you?
My website is taboo2truth.com. My podcast is Taboo to Truth, Life and Sex After 50. I'm on all the platforms and YouTube. I'm on socials, Taboo to Truth. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, and I have a couple of courses, one that's out, one that's coming. I have an adult sex education class that
Mm.
6 modules. It's really quite full of all sorts of information for people in midlife. That's available on my website. And I have another one coming out on menopause for men in the
Oh,
next few
wow.
weeks.
So
Yeah,
for men to understand their wives? Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, amazing. I love that. Well, Karen Bigman, thank you for joining us on the Orgasmic Lifestyle podcast, where every day is a climax.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
The series I'm watching now is Kylie, which is the documentary of Kylie Minogue, available on Netflix. As I grew up in the UK, I was a big fan of the soap opera Neighbours, which is an Australian soap opera which is set in Melbourne. And Kylie was my muse. She played Charlene. And Charlene was a rebellious teenager who became a mechanic. And I just loved her character, her feistiness. I loved her hair. I was such a fan. And she really was a muse for me. Also, her relationship with Jason Donovan, who played her on-screen boyfriend as well, was like the perfect couple. And I remember watching the episode of their wedding, which was watched by over 20 million people in the UK. It was really part of UK culture, even though it was Australian. And I believe that it was more popular in the UK than in Australia itself, which is interesting. It used to be on at 1:30 and at 5:35 twice a day. That's how popular it was. And sometimes if I was off school, if anyone was off school because they were sick, that was one perk of the day, to be sick and just being able to watch Neighbours before anyone else did. It was really amazing. So I've been a Kylie fan all of my life, and I would love to see her in concert. I've seen all the other divas that I love, like Lady Gaga, Madonna, Britney, but I haven't seen Kylie Minogue. And what was really interesting about this documentary, which follows her life from childhood, how she got into showbiz, acting and singing, and becoming a global phenomenon. It was nice to kind of relive things that I have lived culturally, but also to see a new perspective of how she was living it. And what was super interesting was her lack of confidence when she first became a singer, and especially when she wasn't really being celebrated for vocal abilities, let's say. And I think this was interesting that how much it affected her confidence, because sometimes we see people who are seemingly successful, have it all, but you've never know how much some critique or press can actually affect them. And I'd really love to know, if I was to interview her, how would it be different now with this presence of social media? Because now with social media, there's a lot more, there's less gatekeepers in the press, and now people can defend themselves publicly on their own social media accounts. And also your fans are going to step in for you as well, which is a very different scenario, because back in the day, it was just all tabloids and things like that. And Kylie's someone who I watched someone make a video about her, and on the comments were just so positive, because Kylie Minogue is someone who doesn't really have any scandals after 40 years in the business or something like that, which is quite incredible, really, considering the amount of exposure she's had. But what really kind of warmed my heart in this documentary was when she spoke of her relationship with Michael Hutchence, who she considers to be the love of her life. And what I found so encouraging was the fact that he was a lot older than her. And when you're kind of 20s and with someone who's I think he might be 10 years old, I'm not sure what the age difference was, but there's a significant difference in confidence and life experience, etc. But he was always encouraging of her and encouraging her to discover herself, to become herself. And I thought that's a wonderful memory to have that experience with someone who really genuinely encourages you, because so many people, misinterpret what love really is and try to control someone, especially it's someone who's younger and inexperienced. And it made me think of my own experiences with times when I've opened up to men who have been a little bit older than me, a bit more experienced, and I've kind of put them on a pedestal, which is a terrible trait of mine, a pattern that I've had, and which is, I think, pretty much over. But I've had this tendency to put people who I seemingly have more experience than I do on pedestals, and then taken whatever they've said or any of their opinion they have as gospel, when it's not at all. And but I've also had experience where someone has tried to, really put me down as opposed to encourage me to be more me. And I just thought that was very striking, and just grateful for myself how I've stepped away from experiences where I haven't been encouraged to be myself. And there's so many relationships in my life who've been like that. Why can't you be more this? Why can't you be more that? Whereas to have an experience where someone is encouraging you to be more you is unforgettable and so special. So I can understand why Her relationship with Michael Hutchence was so significant. But of course, he was so hot. He really was, he was like a sex god. He had so much charisma, so much presence, masculine presence, and the kind of guy who men are going to like and women are going to like. He was just very magnetic when he was on stage. But I think it's so nice to remember a past love like that. And I have had to be people in my life who have encouraged me to be more me, but for the most part it's been the opposite, unfortunately. And there's something in me that's kind of rebelled and said, no, that's not me, and that's not how I want to be. Unfortunately, I've woken up in time to actually stop these negative messages. So even if you're not a Kylie Minogue fan, I think it's a really interesting documentary just to see someone's life, how it unfolds from ambition to rising fame to the spotlight, being in the limelight, and how you adjust to that busyness and visibility, which is interesting. And also life struggles and living them in the public eye, which can be very, very challenging. But one thing I noticed about, I think about being, visible online in the media is that you really have to be okay with being misunderstood and not having to explain yourself. If someone gets something very wrong about you, it's okay not to reply, because a lot of people are going to get it wrong about you. You can't really control the narrative, and it's not even worth trying to. Just in the last couple of weeks, I was in a very big magazine in the UK called Closer, double page spread. And I was a little bit nervous about it because Closer is a kind of a gossip magazine, really. But I was so pleased with how it came out. I'm very, very pleased. And there's more. I've got more global press on the way, so it's a little bit kind of like I've been pushing, to get my message out there, my work out there more and more. And now it's just kind of happening. And there's a little bit of fear involved, but also a bit of excitement as well. But also, I've come to a point where you have to be okay with not controlling how people think about you. And if people get it very wrong, then who cares? It doesn't really matter. Other people will understand. So if you are interested in 80s culture, Kylie, I highly recommend it. And also something I really think is interesting from it as well was how she, went from pop, and she had her indie phase and then went back to pop. And I think it's super interesting when we are growing and evolving. Sometimes we try things which don't really seem entirely aligned, but it's about self-discovery. And I think sometimes, I'm not sure how much of this indie phase that she tried was a response to not feeling cool, or being not feeling like her music was cool, or to admit that you were into Kylie Minogue in the first album or so. And then kind of trying to get maybe approval, or trying to explore something different, because to say you're indie, it's kind of like cooler to follow an indie group than something that's very poppy. But then when she came out with Spinning Around, which was really like back to the roots, you explore something else, and then you go back to, this is who I am. And I feel like I've done that a lot in my life as well, trying to try different things, especially in relationships. Trying different types of relationships, different things, and then coming back to what your true essence is. And then I think everyone kind of does well when they tap into their authenticity, and that's definitely true of Kylie. And I think Kylie is so likable, and I highly recommend this documentary. It was very emotional. So if you're interested in love, stories of success, and music, then I highly recommend it. Not just for Kylie fans, but if you're a Kylie fan, you will enjoy it even more. Now it's time for this episode's meditation. Please don't listen to this while driving or operating machinery. Instead, take a break from whatever you're doing, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and enjoy. I honor the transitions my body is going through. I hold compassion for myself as I change. My body knows how to find its rhythm again. I trust my hormones are shifting in a way that supports my next chapter. Even when things feel different, my body supports me. I support balance through rest, nourishment, and presence. I am moving through a powerful phase of transformation. I honor the transitions my body is going through. I hold compassion for myself as I change. My system adapts with intelligence and care. My emotions are messages guiding me towards awareness. I can feel intensity while staying grounded. I allow emotions to move through me with ease and acceptance. I am moving through a powerful phase of transformation. I honor the transitions my body is going through. I hold compassion for myself as I change. I am learning new ways of being with myself. I give myself permission to slow down when needed. My body is changing and evolving. I choose ease and cooperation with my body. I am moving through a powerful phase of transformation. I honor the transitions my body is going through. I hold compassion for myself as I change. Rest supports my healing and balance. I listen to my body's signals with respect. I choose softness and gentleness. My energy shifts naturally and fluidly. I am moving through a powerful phase of transformation. I honor the transitions my body is going through. I hold compassion for myself as I change. I support myself with calming, healthy choices. I am still me, even as I change. This stage of life brings clarity and strength. I release old expectations of how I feel. I am moving through a powerful phase of transformation. I want to share something that I've been taking recently that's really supporting my energy, balance, and overall vitality. It's from Lilo Labs. Lilo is the sexual wellness brand you may already know, and they're now expanding into the supplement space with formulations focused on hormonal balance, energy, and libido. The link is in the show notes, and you can get 20% off with the code 20Venus. And what I like about it is that it's not just targeting one symptom or one area, it's designed for a full body support formula for sexual wellness, hormonal harmony, and sustained energy. It contains high quality, clinically studied ingredients like maca, shatavari, fenugreek, magnesium, enzymes, super mushrooms, and miso-inositol, if I can say it right, along with over 85 carefully chosen vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and superfoods. For me personally, I've noticed it helps me feel more steady in my energy throughout the day, more balanced overall, and more connected to my natural desire and vitality. It feels like a gentle daily support rather than something intense or stimulating, more like a nutritional foundation that supports the whole system. If you're looking to support hormonal balance, libido, and energy in a more holistic way, this might be something worth exploring. It's Lilo Labs Female Hormonal Balance Supplement. The link is in the show notes below, and get 20% off with the code 20Venus. To find out more about me and my orgasmic lifestyle, visit venusohara.org or follow me on Instagram. The Orgasmic Lifestyle is also on Substack and YouTube, where you can watch all the interviews with our experts. All the links are in the show notes below. Make sure to search for the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere podcasts are found. And click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks for listening. Have an orgasmic week, and make sure every day is a climax.